Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I just wanted to record a short video this morning because we really are in a very powerful time in history, as I think we can all see. So I just wanted to say a little more about the current situation and how the astrology is manifesting, because it really is right on cue in so many ways. So I have spoken over the last 2-3 years, as many astrologers have, about the US Pluto return. And what might be helpful is if I share the US chart here. So I'm going to share my screen. So this is the chart for the US that I think many astrologers use. It's certainly a very popular chart. And this is set for the 4th of July, 1776, 5:10 in the afternoon, Philadelphia, which was supposedly the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we have been going through over the last 2 years, certainly, and this will continue to be operational in its process, what is called the US Pluto return. I've got a whole video on this, which I'll put below. But essentially, at the time that the US was born in its current form, Pluto in the heavens in its orbit was at 27 degrees 32 minutes of Capricorn. So this is considered the birth chart, if you like, of the current USA, how it initially was birthed. And I've often quoted how when Pluto was in Aquarius, as you're aware, it's just moved into Aquarius on the 20th of January. Last time it was in Aquarius, because Pluto has a 248-year cycle, one of the big examples was the French Revolution in 1789. But the other huge example was the US Revolution, because the US was also born out of revolution. As I understand history, 13 British states in the US were demanding independence from the onerous British establishment, power and control, Pluto, and the onerous British taxes. Pluto represents taxes. And so they broke away as a statement of independence, the Declaration of Independence, and formed what eventually became the US. And this revolution, this US revolution, really continued during the late 1700s, while Pluto was leaving Capricorn, coming into Aquarius, which is where it is now. So what we have had over the last 2 years, and I've talked about it ad infinitum, is for the very first time since the birth of the US in its current form, transiting Pluto up in the heavens has come back to its natal, so-called natal position of 2732 of Capricorn. It was there exactly on the 28th of December 2022. It then came back exactly by degree, not by minute, but by degree, in October last year. But still, it is operational. It's what you call within orb, because Pluto will track over the end of Capricorn, beginning of Aquarius, end of Capricorn, beginning of Aquarius, through 2024, end of the old, beginning of the new. So again, I've spoken at length how this is really going to raise questions about, okay, who is the US now? What is the US? What is the US in terms of values? This is the second house of values for the country, also the second house of the economy, because it's in Capricorn. Again, I've talked a lot about what is the US in terms of its constitution, Capricorn, its legality, Capricorn, its politics, its very makeup, its geographic makeup, what states make up the US. And isn't it interesting to see what is unfolding in the US right now? But the situation, let's say in Texas, has really only blown up, despite many months of illegal immigration over the border of Mexico, Texas. It's really only blown up this week. since Pluto moved into Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of truth, the sign of freedom, human rights, the sign of the people, the sign of revolution. So Pluto moved into Aquarius in the heavens on the 20th of January. And therefore, that seems to have ignited this very strong response in Texas, which really blew up around the full moon. And the full moon happened on the 25th of January, when the full moon was at 5 degrees of Leo. Now, that 5 degrees of Leo was conjunct the North Node in the birth chart of the US. So what does that say? This is shining a light on the soul's path of growth for America. So very interesting evolutionary times as well as revolutionary times we are in. So at that full moon, the moon was conjunct the North Node and it was opposite the sun. And the sun was conjunct Pluto and the moon was opposing Pluto. So this, as I mentioned in my last update, was bringing up issues around power and control, Pluto, intensity of the people around those issues of power and control. Whenever you get Moon Uranus hard aspects, it's intense feelings, intense emotions, but also because the Sun and Pluto are in Aquarius now, around those issues of human rights, freedom, truth, justice, revolution. So it was at that full moon that things really kicked off in Texas. And also, as I mentioned in a previous update, the dwarf planet Varuna was exactly conjunct the North Node of the US by degree, within just a few minutes of exactitude, actually. And Varuna is the Hindu god of the cosmic waters. It also is connected to cosmic justice and punishes those who lie or those who are overbearing or patronizing or arrogant in their attitude. So here we've got and Leo is leadership. Leo is the sign of leadership, and Aquarius is the sign of the people. So we've got some super, super clear themes here around what is happening. And don't forget, Leo is also the sign of sovereignty, our own sovereignty, the sovereignty of the people. And before I stop sharing here, I just want to look down the pipeline slightly, because if we look down the pipeline to the new moon in Aquarius, which is a really electrical, revolutionary new moon on the 9th of February, at that point, Mars is conjunct US Pluto. So not only at that new moon do we have the sun and the moon being squared by Uranus at that time, which is the ruler of Aquarius, so super revolutionary time. But by the way, also not to forget, today, when I'm filming this, 27th of January, Uranus is stationary direct. Whenever a planet is stationary in moving in either direction, its symbolism is magnified. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius, is the sign of revolution, rebellion, the people, humanity, humanitarianism, earthquakes of all kinds, eruptions, eruptive behavior, volatility. So right on cue between the full moon and today, where Uranus is stationary direct, we have this situation in the US. And I'm going to talk about Europe in a minute. So as I understand it, Texas, having endured this situation with the illegal immigrants over the border, with no checks at all by the federal government, has taken the law into its own hands and said that they will no longer obey federal law, they will obey the US Constitution. That's my understanding of the situation. And they've called in their National Guard, the Texas National Guard. 27 of the US states, I now understand, are backing them against the federal government. and supporting Texas's stance. We will see what comes of this. But as I say, by the time we get to the new moon in Aquarius, that is extremely revolutionary as well. At that time, Mars, as I say, will be conjunct the US Pluto, energizing all that this is about in terms of power, control, top down, etc. By the time we get to the 13th of February, because Pluto has already, by transit, has just moved into Aquarius, Mars becomes conjunct to Pluto at 0 of Aquarius. So that what that will do, Mars-Pluto aspects are very often might makes right, big demonstrations of power from the top down, from government. So we certainly may see more of might makes right from top down governments, corporations, institutions to try and control the situation. But equally, Mars is going to energize the freedom movement. Mars is going to energize the freedom movement at that time because they're both in Aquarius. So we have a lot going on here. And I'm going to stop sharing at this time and just going to talk to you because I've spoken over the last 2 years, and many astrologers have, that we have a lot of focus on the US. Now, that's partly because of the Pluto return. This is immensely important because it's the first time transiting Pluto is coming back to its so-called natal position for 246, 247 years. So that's why it's so important. The other reason that the US is in the crosswires, as it were, of our attention is that there are 3 total solar eclipse paths that cross America or fall across America. In August 2017, there was a total solar eclipse that fell northwest to southeast across America. Just gone on the 14th of October 2023, we had another total solar eclipse that fell northwest, southeast, again across America. And on the 8th of April this year, we have another total solar eclipse that this time is falling northeast to southwest across America. And I put a link below this video so you can take a look, certainly at the last one and the upcoming one in April, and get more details about the upcoming one in April. These are big eclipses. They are total solar eclipses. Now, the crossing point of these is in Texas. So I've been saying, along with other people, I've been saying recently that Texas is in the crosswires. Not only is the US in the crosswires, Texas is in the crosswires. And I didn't know how that was going to manifest. I didn't know how that was going to manifest. Is there going to be a portal opening there? Is there going to be some political activity? You never really know the event or the experience. You just know the astrology. But where eclipse paths fall, they usually not only indicate action and change, but that geography coming into the news in some way. So if we look back to 2017, was there a lot of change happening in America at that time? You betcha. Whatever you think about the politics, there was a lot of change in America. So equally through this period from last October, running through, and really eclipses, this will last till the end of 2024, there is going to be a lot of focus on those eclipse paths. As I say, you can track them exactly from the link below, but there's a particular focus also on Texas as an ignition point. And that's what we're really seeing now. So this is going to be a very interesting period in time because people are calling it is this a US Revolution Mark II? Well, it's certainly US second episode, as it were, next episode, because it's the very first time Pluto's come back to that natal place. But also in Europe, equally following the astrology. I mean, the astrology is so spot on. I mean, to the day. Today, 27th of January, Uranus is stationary direct. A week ago, Pluto moved into Aquarius, that Uranus rules. We have across Europe, we've had the Dutch farmers protesting against their government about agricultural policy very vigorously. We've had the German farmers, also the German train drivers, truckers, some of the general public have joined them, the Polish and Romanian farmers, the Italian farmers, and now the French farmers are, as I understand it, all converging on government buildings. The French, for sure, because they love this tactic, have got many tons of slurry on board. Don't mess with the farmers. This is going to be a very interesting period to confront the government and say, enough. Stop trying to take our land away. Stop trying to force us to cull our animals. We are growing food for Europe and beyond. This has to stop. So they're drawing a very, very clear line in the sand with this. This whole year is going to be revolutionary. This isn't just for January. The whole year is revolutionary. This is just the beginning. I think February is going to be even louder in this respect. And remember, with Europe, if we look back to the French Revolution, the storming of the Bastille by the peasants in July 1789, that really took down the monarchy and established France as a republic very rapidly. And that was remarkable. And within a month of that storming of the Bastille, the French Assemblée Nationale published something called a paper called the Declaration of the Rights of Man. And it's incredible that that came only a month after the storming of the Bastille. And the Declaration of the Rights of Man essentially set up certain legal rights for ordinary people, equality in the law, equal rights in terms of property ownership and various things. That became a foundational document for democracy across Europe, not just France. So again, we are seeing the relooking at something of democracy that was birthed in the last big revolution in Europe. That big revolution, which is clearly signaled by the French Revolution, which was so dramatic. I hope I'm making sense here. So both for the US and for Europe, there's a whole, okay, where are we now in those two geographies? Having set up so-called liberty, democracy, freedom, and equality, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. How's it going to shape up this time? Where are we? Where are we with all of those amazing idealistic declarations? Now, I want to really say this very loudly and clearly for everyone to hear. I am not being naive here in terms of what is unfolding. Are some of these situations being not spontaneous? So we have to be aware that as we move through this year, this is not going to be a smooth, linear, gradual process in any regard. It's going to be rocky, it's going to be dramatic, it's going to be head spinning because you think things are going in one direction. Actually, they may have been going in another, because with AI, are we going to know what's true, what's not? They're going to be layers of smoke and mirror. Gosh, I thought those were the good guys. And then all of a sudden, I'm not so sure. There's going to be a lot of that. So we've got to, again, use discernment. Again, we've got to turn inwards and check in with our inner sense of what's true and what's not. And that's so important. Another really good reason to turn inwards. And I really want to say that loudly and clearly, because at times this year, and even a little into next year, I think too, it's going to look at, gosh, I thought that the old world was crumbling and now I'm not so sure. Because at times it will look as if They've patched up the scenery at the theatre, that the old world is still perhaps even more in control. But the energy, the astrological energy, is not with that scenario. And it's often because this is the last gasp of that old structure that extreme situations are arising. I hope I'm making sense here. Whereas the birth of the new is often invisible. It's often you and I going quietly about our business, meditating, dreaming in, visioning. That's all invisible. What's going to happen this year in terms of the old order is going to be extremely visible, extremely colorful, extremely eventful, extremely obvious. So that will give it a feeling at times of dominance, even though energetically that isn't the case. I hope I'm making sense here. And because it's so important that we realize that even though many of us are, some of us may be acting kinetically as well, we're taking action, and that's fine too, but many of us are going quietly, purposefully, with intention, with our meditation, with our visualization, behind the scenes to create a more loving world. And please don't think that that doesn't matter because it's working with the invisible. Because the invisible, the consciousness is primary. Consciousness is primary. Consciousness is foundational. Everything that manifests in the world comes from consciousness. So that's kind of like the roots of the tree, where we're taking action, we're dealing with the branches and the twigs of the tree after that manifestation has happened. I hope I'm making sense here. Maybe that's why it's so powerful to work with consciousness, because we're dealing with the foundation of what is then going to manifest, but it's invisible. And that's why, particularly right now, we have to trust the invisible. So find your unique piece of the puzzle. That's going to be clearer to you this year, I think, than it ever has. You know, are you a visionary? Are you a pioneer? Are you an innovator? What are you? What's your role in this massive spiritual evolution that we're going through? And are you getting in touch with your shaman, your magician, your astrologer even? What are you getting in touch with that feels ancient and magical and powerful? And that will see you through. But maybe most important of the lot, don't forget to drop into stillness. Drop into peace, drop into stillness, turn off the noise, certainly turn off the news, and just really know that that is the most helpful frequency to broadcast to the world. So it's not going to be dull this year. It's going to be fast. It's going to be dizzying. As I say, at times you're not going to know what's true, what's not. Many layers to every situation, a lot of smoke and mirrors. Know that. Sit on your eagle's perch and observe. Just think, okay, that's another layer I wasn't aware of, but now I see it. Okay, another layer I wasn't aware of, but now I see it. And just observe in that, what I like to call divine neutrality, will give you a very good perspective on this year's events. God bless. I hope that's helped you. I'll be back very soon, and bye for now.